In the heart of the swinging 1960s, amidst the vibrant chaos of London's eclectic streets, one name echoed through the shadows, leaving a legacy that continues to intrigue and mystify. Jimmy Moody. James Alfred Moody was born in Looe, Cornwall, England on February 22, 1941. His mother, Rosina Hart, was a wartime evacuee from Camberwell in London, and his father tragically lost his life during World War II when his ship was torpedoed by a German U-boat. Growing up as one of three siblings in London, Moody witnessed a transformative period in the city's criminal underworld during his teenage years in the mid-1950s. During this era, control over London's criminal landscape saw a sudden shift, with figures like Jack Spot Comer and William Billy Hill assuming leadership roles. Together, they orchestrated smuggling operations, protection rackets, and engaged in extreme violence to solidify their influence over the West End. Spot and Hill were implicated in various criminal activities, including the suspected planning of the 1952 East Castle Street postal van robbery, yielding £287,000, and a bullion heist in 1954, amassing another £40,000. Hill played a mentoring role for the emerging criminal talents, the twins Reggie and Ronnie Kray, who were embarking on their criminal endeavors. However, by 1956, the collaborative efforts between Spot and Hill soured, culminating in an assault on Spot and his wife by Hill's bodyguard, Frankie Fraser. Following this incident, Spot Comer retired, but Hill persisted in overseeing criminal affairs into the 1960s. He managed a gambling con known as the Big Edge at the Clermont Club, located at 44 Berkeley Square. The club, initially opened by John Aspinall, served as a venue for fleecing unsuspecting gamblers, including some of Britain's wealthiest individuals, out of millions of pounds. After 2 years, the operation was shut down, coinciding with the Kray twins establishing their own lucrative nightclubs and protection rackets. During this particular period, Moody took on the role of an enforcer for the Richardson gang, who were in direct competition with the Krays for control over South London. Referred to as the Torture Gang, due to their notorious use of pliers for tooth extraction, brothers Charlie and Eddie Richardson ventured into the scrap metal business in Camberwell. Their activities spanned fruit machines, extortion, illegal gambling, and prostitution, solidifying their reputation as London's most sadistic gangsters. A delicate alliance formed among the Krays, Richardsons, and a third faction, the Nashes from Islington, recognized as the wickedest brothers in England. This brief interval of relative peace allowed Moody to engage in freelance work for the Krays, establishing his own formidable standing and gaining the distinction of being the hardest man in London among his peers. In Dulwich, Moody established a household with his wife Valerie, who gave birth to their son in 1966. 4 years later, their daughter was born. In March 1966, a disturbance erupted at Mr. Smith's, one of the Richardsons' establishments, shattering the prevailing calm. The altercation led to the unfortunate death of Richard Hart, an associate of the Krays. Moody, present that evening, played a pivotal role by rescuing the wounded Eddie Richardson during the turmoil. Urgently, he bundled Eddie into his Jaguar, ensuring his safe escape. Subsequently, law enforcement detained several members of the Richardson gang, and although Moody was acquitted of affray charges, he found himself entangled in the escalating conflict between the Krays and the Richardson brothers. Just 2 nights later, Ronnie Kray took the life of George Cornell, an enforcer for the Richardsons. According to certain accounts, Ronnie's motivation for the act stemmed from an earlier confrontation at the Astor Club on Christmas Day, 1965. During this encounter between the Krays and the Richardson gang, Cornell reportedly referred to Ronnie as a fat poof. This incident fueled the tensions that ultimately led to Cornell's fatal shooting by Ronnie Cray. In July 1966, Charlie Richardson faced arrest on charges related to torture allegations, while Eddie soon found himself in custody for a fray, resulting in a 5-year sentence. The subsequent torture trial rendered both brothers guilty, with Eddie receiving an additional 10 years to his sentence, and Charlie handed a formidable 25-year term. As events unfolded, the Cray twins also encountered legal trouble several years later on May 8, 1968. Ronnie faced charges of murdering George Cornell, while Reggie stood accused of the murder of another criminal, Jack the Hat McVitie. Despite surviving the downfall of both criminal gangs, Moody eventually found himself behind bars, not for his connections to organized crime, but for the murder of a young merchant seaman. In 1968, Moody and his elder brother Richard were involved in a confrontation with William Day, a Navy steward. Following a heated exchange of words, Day was discovered in his garden with severe head injuries, ultimately leading to his death. Both Moody brothers were convicted of manslaughter, and they each received 6-year sentences. Upon his release in 1972, Moody re-entered a criminal landscape that had once again undergone significant changes. He swiftly aligned himself with a group of criminals led by Charlie Chopper Knight, focusing their activities on targeting armored security vehicles. In their heists on delivery vans, the armed robbers, led by Moody, utilized a chainsaw to cut substantial openings in the sides, allowing them to pilfer the cash. This distinctive method earned them the media moniker Chainsaw Gang. However, as law enforcement observed a pattern of the gang consistently striking on Thursdays, coinciding with payroll delivery days, the nickname evolved to the Thursday Gang in the newspapers. During a noteworthy raid in the Blackwall Tunnel in 1978, Moody adopted a clever disguise as a policeman. He intercepted a security van, confiscating car keys from multiple motorists in the tunnel to hinder them from alerting authorities. The gang's take from this operation amounted to around $2 million, marking them as the most successful robbers of the decade. Moody's successful spree came to an end in 1979 when he was apprehended. Facing suspicion from the police regarding his involvement in 3 armed robberies, yielding the gang £930,000, Moody was placed on remand at Brixton Prison while awaiting trial. While at Brixton, Moody developed a camaraderie with his cellmate Gerard Tuite, a member of the Provisional IRA. Collaborating, they hatched an escape plan. On December 16, 1980, Moody Tuite and fellow prisoner Stan Thompson executed their plan, tunneling through the walls of their cells in the top security wing and descending into the yard. Using builder's planks and scaffolding, the trio scaled the 15-foot perimeter wall and successfully evaded capture. Notably, this escape occurred during a period of hunger strikes by imprisoned IRA members. Tuite's successful escape became a cause for celebration, bolstering the morale of the terrorist organization. Allegedly, Moody received £10,000 for his role. The aftermath was swift, with Moody immediately becoming the prime target on Scotland Yard's most wanted list. Law enforcement issued 16,500 wanted posters for Tuite, who was eventually apprehended on March 4, 1982. However, Moody had been living in a council flat on Wadeson Street in Hackney, East London, since he returned from Ireland in the late 80s. The police never knew. At 7:30 p.m. on June 1, 1993, he made his way to the Royal Hotel, his regular pub, for an evening out. Stationed at the bar, he lingered throughout the night. Recognized by locals as Mick the Irishman, he maintained a reserved demeanor, revealing scant details about his history. As the clock struck 10 p.m., the bar's occupants dwindled to just 4 individuals: Moody, the landlord Joe Anderson, and a young couple. During this period, a pilfered white Ford Fiesta made its way into the pub's car park. A man, as described by witnesses, in his 30s or 40s, with either blonde or graying shoulder-length hair, donning a light brown jacket, walked into the pub. He placed an order at the bar before directing his attention to Moody, who remained seated. Unexpectedly, he produced a Webley Point .38 revolver, firing 4 shots at Moody. Following the gunfire, the man attempted to exit the pub calmly through an alternate door. However, with new patrons entering, he opted to leave through the same entrance and swiftly drove away. Detectives concluded that the murder displayed all the typical characteristics of a gangland execution, given Moody's extensive list of adversaries. Witnesses recounted how the assailant verbally confronted Moody before pulling the trigger, suggesting a potentially personal motive. It was only after his demise that connections emerged between Moody and various unresolved murders that occurred during his years on the run. One such case involved the suspected involvement of Moody in the deaths of Peter and Gwenda Dixon, a couple discovered deceased on June 29, 1989, while walking along the Pembrokeshire coast. Initial speculation suggested the Dixons may have inadvertently come across a provisional IRA weapons cache, resulting in their murder to secure their silence. However, it was later revealed that Pembrokeshire serial killer and rapist John Cooper was responsible for their deaths, with his guilt confirmed in May 2011. Moody is also suspected of involvement in the 1989 double murder at Epping Forest. On the evening of Friday, December 22, 1989, the lifeless bodies of Terry Gooderham, 39, and his girlfriend, Maxine Arnold, 30, were found in Gooderham's Mercedes, parked at the renowned courting spot. Both victims had been fatally shot. Leaving their Walthamstow residence that night, the couple appeared to have intended a same-night return, indicated by the left-on lights. Notably, Arnold left her handbag, while Gooderham abandoned his wallet and watch. Investigators theorized that the couple may have been lured to meet a contract killer or were possibly abducted from their shared residence and driven to Epping Forest, where they were subsequently executed. Upon investigating Gooderham's private life, law enforcement uncovered that the accountant and auditor overseeing pubs and wine bars across London split his time between Arnold and another blonde, with whom he engaged in an extramarital affair. The details surrounding the couple's killing spurred diverse motives and theories. Speculation arose, suggesting Gooderham could have been singled out due to his connection to an ongoing gangland feud or potential involvement in criminal activities. Meanwhile, Arnold was seen as an unwitting victim, caught in the midst of the turmoil. Moody came under suspicion regarding the death of Nick Whiting, whose body was discovered in July 1990. Whiting, a former British champion saloon car driver, owned the All Car Equipe, his car dealership in Wrotham, Kent. On June 8, 1990, he went missing following a raid on his showroom, during which 5 of his prized cars, totaling £100,000 in value, were stolen. Although the vehicles were recovered over the following days, there was no trace of Whiting, the millionaire owner of the company. Upon scrutinizing Whiting's business affairs, investigators uncovered his close association with Kenneth Noy, a figure suspected of involvement in the 1983 Brinks-Mat heist. During this heist, the initial plan was to steal £3.2 million from a warehouse at the Heathrow International Trading Estate. However, the thieves ended up with an unexpected windfall, making off with over £26 million in gold, bullion, diamonds, and cash. On July 2nd, an anonymous tip-off reached the police, leading to the discovery of Whiting's body. He had been buried in a shallow grave on Rainham Marshes in Essex, having suffered 9 stab wounds and 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Detectives suspected a gruesome sequence of events, Whiting's abduction from his workplace, followed by a brutal assault. They believed he had been bound, gagged, and placed in the trunk of a car. Subsequently, he was forcibly marched for 2 miles before meeting his tragic end with execution. The prevailing theory strongly suggested that Whiting was murdered due to suspicions of him being a police informant. He was one of several individuals associated with the Brinks-Mat heist who met untimely deaths in the years following the robbery. Around 10:30 p.m. on Sunday, March 24, 1991, 44-year-old Peter Rossini was arriving at his River Avenue residence in Palmer's Green. He became the target of an ambush on his doorstep, where he was shot 4 times. Tragically, his lifeless body was discovered by his daughter, who promptly called emergency services. Despite their swift response, Rossini had already succumbed to his injuries. Witnesses reported seeing a man, aged between 40-50, standing at 6 feet tall, heavily built, and wearing a bomber jacket with hard-heeled shoes, running down River Avenue toward Oak Tree Road immediately after the shooting. This unfamiliar jogger was observed panting as he approached a waiting van, which quickly sped away. In the evenings leading up to Rossini's murder, witnesses had noted a different van parked on Oak Tree Road, close to Rossini's antiques dealership in Paddington, near Marble Arch. Moody found himself a key suspect in Rossini's death, yet the motive remains shrouded in mystery. In the chaotic aftermath of the Cray twins' arrest and imprisonment, criminal entities vied to fill the void left by the dismantling of their firm. 2 prominent factions that emerged were the Brindle family and the Arif brothers, Turkish descendants whose notoriety cast fear across London. This ignited a fierce Gangland feud between the 2 factions, resulting in the arrest or demise of many of their leaders. As the conflict intensified, it culminated in the tragic shooting of 23-year-old David Brindle in August 1991 at the Bell Public House in Walworth. The incident claimed the life of an innocent customer as well, as witnesses observed 2 individuals committing the crime, with one of them shouting, "This is for Abi," before unleashing gunfire. Detectives suspect that this attack was a form of retaliation for the death of 30-year-old Ahmed Abi Abdullah, a cousin of Dogan Arif, who was fatally shot in a betting shop in Walworth, South London, in March 1991. Tony Brindle faced initial arrest in connection to the crime, but along with his brother Patrick, he was later exonerated. Moody is believed to be one of the 2 culprits responsible for the murder of the youngest member of the Brindle family. As these cases remained unsolved, so too did the mystery surrounding Moody's own murder, leaving the motive and killer shrouded in uncertainty.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment and share. These videos take a long time to make, so please do not hesitate to show your support if you like this genre of video. If you have any suggestions for upcoming videos, please leave a comment.